Okay.
What's good, y'all? Shout out to Notification Game for hitting the like button. And building the star chat, y'all the realest ones in it. I appreciate you anyway. This story is crazy, y'all. This story is crazy. And it doesn't surprise me, sadly. It doesn't surprise me in the least bit. Everybody that know about Mississippi, y'all know Mississippi is one of the most, probably top 5, the most racist states in America. I believe Mississippi is where Emmett Till, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Emmett Till, that's where Emmett Till was tortured and murdered, in Mississippi. I could be wrong, but I believe, again, it was in Mississippi. Anyway, y'all, let's get into it, y'all. So Mississippi Goon Squad sentenced for torturing 2 black men. So apparently, for those that don't know who or what the Goon Squad is, the Goon Squad is a group of policemen that was running around terrorizing people in their city, in their state, labeling themselves as quote unquote the Goon Squad, mainly for racial acts, right, against black men and black women. These people would break into people's houses, steal things, assault them, SA them, amongst a million other things. And that's why I laugh when I hear, oh, racism is dead. Stop talking about racism. Racism is dead, dead. Why y'all keep talking about it's 2024, death. Stop talking about racism. These 6 cops broke into a black man's house, beat him up, tortured him, sexually assaulted him. Usually I say SA, but it slipped out, my bad. SA'd him, all because they found out that one of the black men was in a relationship with a Caucasian. But you're sitting here telling me racism is dead. Let's get into it, y'all.
6 white sheriff deputies who committed those horrendous crimes were sentenced today in Mississippi.
In Mississippi, court documents laid out the stomach-churning horrors that were endured by the victims here. One was also actually shot in the mouth. The deputies then came up with a cover story, and at first the victims faced charges themselves, if you can believe it. ABC News' Phil Lipoff is following this story. Phil, this is just revolting and astonishing that it's the 21st century and it's still happening in Mississippi. And so they call them the Goon Squad. What was that about?
Yeah, Terry, you say stomach churning. That's a perfect way to turn that phrase. It would be hard to believe if it wasn't true. This happened in January of 2023 when Rankin County Deputy Brett McAlpin got a racist call complaining that 2 black men were staying with a white woman at a home in Braxton, Mississippi. McAlpin then texted another deputy who reached out to others, part of that so-called goon squad you mentioned. All 6 have pleaded guilty to a slew of state and federal charges stemming from what happened next. They entered that home without a warrant. Once inside, they handcuffed the 2 men, Michael Jenkins, Eddie Parker, both in their 30s, sexually assaulted them with a sex toy, poured milk, alcohol, chocolate syrup all over their faces, into their mouths, mocked them with racial slurs, shocked them with stun guns. Eventually, one of the deputies, Hunter Elward, stuck a gun in Michael Jenkins' mouth, pulled the trigger, shattering his jaw and nearly killing him. They then planted a gun and drugs and tried to cover up their attack by blaming the 2 victims, who then, for months, actually faced false charges themselves.
As you can imagine, we're sitting here having a conversation, just completely revolted by it. Now facing this $400 million civil lawsuit, from the victims. So is there any pressure on?
Yeah, let me say this real quick, y'all. I hope they get every dollar. I hope they get every dollar. 400 million? Hell, make it 800, double it. I hope they get every cent, every dollar. The only thing that I hate about situations like this, one of the few, I should say, one of the few things I hate about situations like this is that the taxpayers is going to be paying for this. The taxpayers is going to be paying for this. So unfortunate. I can't go into too much details because YouTube won't allow me. I don't even think I'm able to provide a link for y'all. If y'all really want to read the article, put your email address in the comments, and then I will I'll send that to y'all. If y'all really want to know. Other than that, I would suggest that you guys just Google Mississippi Goon Squad sentencing or torture 2 black men, just so you can read the full on stuff, that these sick things that they was doing. Some of the things that she listed was kind of light. They did much more than that. She over here talking about some poured milk and syrup and all. We ain't trying to hear nothing. I don't give a damn about that. The things that they was doing to these 2 men inside that house was insane. And I don't even think I can describe it. That's the crazy part. Because I already have a feeling YouTube is either going to partially monetize this video, if not demonetize this video. I already see it coming. I'm not even going to try to argue with them because I already know how YouTube like to do. The things that they was doing to those men inside their house was insane. The news anchor people talking about, oh, they entered the house without a warrant. No, bro, they broke and entered in the house. Call it what it is. They love trying to water these types of things down when it comes to cops. They love to. Oh, they entered the house without a warrant. No, they broke and entered into the damn house, tied them 2 men up with handcuffs, beat them, did other type of SA things to them, as far as using their batons, as far as using sex toys. First of all, y'all supposed to be on the clock. Why y'all carrying around sex toys? They do this often and have done this often to other citizens in damn Mississippi. That's why. It's fun and games to them. They had group chats, pictures, private pictures and videos that they were sending to each other, laughing and mocking these people. They're sending.
Anyone here to resign?
Well, there's a ton of pressure, but in answering your question, it's unfortunately not just this incident, okay? There have been past allegations of excessive force by this department. Still, Rankin County Sheriff Brian Bailey says he didn't know about the incidents, and despite pressure by local activists—
That's a lie.
and there is a lot, and the NAACP, he says he will not step down. The federal judge in this case will sentence 2 defendants each day for the next 3 days. That will be the 6th of them. Elward, who shot Jenkins in the mouth, was sentenced today. He faces the most serious charges, and he got roughly 20 years behind bars.
Good.
Moments ago, 6 former Miss.
Good. 20-something years good for his ass. Should have got life. He put a gun in this man's mouth, made the man perform acts on that gun, and then he shot him. To try to cover their tracks, so to try to cover themselves, they planted a firearm that had bodies on it. Where did y'all get this firearm from? That's the topic for another day. Planted drugs, came up with this crazy ass lie, this story, that they was doing a raid on the house. They were fighting, resisting arrest, all those other things. They charged those men with multiple made up false charges. Where were the body cam footages? Where's the arrest warrant? Where's the warrant, period, to enter the house? Why were the victims, first of all, sexually assaulted with their rectum, number one, but also having bullets in their damn jaw and tased multiple times?
Mississippi police officers head back in court. They've already pleaded guilty to federal charges of torturing 2 black men. Well, now they are staring down state charges. Prosecutors say the suspects, all of whom are white, called themselves the Goon Squad because of the excessive force that they've used.
Okay, this has been heart-wrenching for those victims. They, for quite some time, have been trying to get anyone to listen to them about what they experienced on that night. 2 hours of torture. When you think about having oil spilled on your body, eggs thrown at you while you recall the N-word over and over. For quite some time, these men were trying to get someone to pay attention. Now, look, this is the first time we've actually seen these men in court because that first case was a federal trial. And as you know, you can't get cameras in there. But this is a state court case. They call themselves the Goon Squad, and it was their job to go out and dispense justice the way they wanted to. In fact, at one point, they even tried to sexually assault these men, and they used their tasers over and over again to see who had the most powerful taser.
I crawled here to this spot, and they started beating me here and tasing me. As you can see, you know, blood spots and all. And my blood spots there.
I'm embarrassed.
That was Eddie Parker and Michael Jenkins. When you think about Michael Jenkins, at one point, one of these officers who was admitted to this took out a gun, and they believed they had cleared the gun. They put it in his mouth and they pulled the trigger. He cleared the gun again and put it back in his mouth and pulled the trigger. At that point, it shot through his tongue and exited his neck. That's why he has trouble talking to this day. He'll be dealing with this for the rest of his life. Tasers.
Disgusting. Disgusting. But all throughout social media, we have to hear this over and over again. Racism is dead. Yeah, racism. The only what did this guy say? I can't remember what he said verbatim. I'm paraphrasing. Oh, the only reason why racism is still alive is because black people won't stop talking about it. Black people won't shut up about it. That's what they say. And this isn't just racism towards blacks. This is racism against Hispanics, against the Muslim community, against Asians, against whoever else y'all want to call it. It happens to everyone. And that's the reason why people are still talking about it, because these types of things is happening over and over and over again. Do y'all remember, I don't remember, I did that video probably like 4 years ago. Daniel Horowitz, who was a cop, who had raped over 80 black women, was sentenced to like 300 years in prison or some craziness like that. Y'all remember that? Mind y'all, he was a cop for however many years. The 80 women, I think out of the 80 women, only 10 took the stand or 6 took the stand. The other ones was too scared to take the stand. How many other victims do y'all think Daniel Horowitz, he was, you know, a sexual assault of women? How many other women do y'all think he did outside of that 80? For the Goon Squad people, how many men and black women do y'all think they were assaulting and torturing? Outside these 2 men, how many? You are a fool to think that this was just a one-time situation. They had group chats and text messages again involving, sergeants and lieutenants. It was brought up to the chiefs, it was brought up to the chief prior to, and the chief denying knowing anything about it. But in one of the group chats, it was saying that, hey, I just showed the video to the chief, and the chief was laughing his ass off. And then here goes the chief talking about, oh, I didn't know anything about it. Yes, you did. What is he saying now? I'm not stepping down. You need to. First of all, it shouldn't even be a situation of you stepping down. It should be a situation of you being forced, being fired and charged along with these damn 6 cops. Let's go to the last video, y'all. Let me get up out of here.
The 6 former deputies are facing sentencing today for torturing 2 black men last year. So far, a federal judge sentenced Hunter Elwood to 20 years in prison. Jeffrey Middleton will be sentenced this afternoon. The rest of the men will follow over the next couple of days.
Now, these men pleaded guilty in August to a slate of state and federal charges, and prosecutors say that the officers nicknamed themselves the Goon Squad because of their willingness to use excessive force and not report it. NBC News correspondent Antonia Hilton joins us now. Antonia, I mean, frankly, these charges are disgusting, and it's something that, unfortunately, some people didn't realize were even happening or forgot that this even happened, and it's not quite as rare as we think. What are the charges specifically?
You know, you're right to point that out, because one of the conversations happening in Mississippi right now is that for many Black elders there, this feels like a relic of what they were hoping was a bygone era, something from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s in the South that shouldn't be happening today. But what happened that night in January of 2023 is that these 5 former deputies and 1 police officer entered this home, no warrant, no evidence that anything was happening there. And they proceeded to torture these men for hours using food, at one point a sex toy, and threatening an execution. And that's how one of the men, Michael Jenkins, ended up being shot in the mouth by one of the officers, who is the officer who has been sentenced to 20 years. So this is heinous, doesn't even really describe how awful all of this is. And on top of all of what I just described, they then tried to plant evidence, guns, drugs on these men. And it took months for these 2 victims, Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker, to be believed. And so, there's relief that we're here now. But there's another world in which that actually wouldn't have been the case.
It's sick. Somehow Jenkins and Parker did survive. What are they saying about these sentencings?
Well, they are pushing for the maximum sentences. And it's not just the 2 of them. It's actually an entire Black community in the Jackson area rising up here and saying, you really need to send a message now. And, we have 20 years for one officer. That officer is facing the most serious charges because of having shot Jenkins in the mouth. But they're hoping something very similar is coming for the other 5 men involved in this. And now, on top of all of that, the local DA is going to have to review all kinds of cases in association with the Goon Squad. So think about this. There's the story of just these 6 guys, but really there is a bigger process here that could take years, undoing all the harm that was likely done.
And how many of those victims were not believed, right? Incredible.
All right, Antonia Hilton, thank you so much for your report.
Like I said, how many victims are there out there? How many victims are really out there? I can guarantee you it's more than 2, man. Crazy. But I want y'all to comment down below. Let me know what you thought about this video, man. Thanks for watching. Until next time, please, man, be safe for her.